I took all the money out. I also cashed out my retirement plan to buy my first real estate transaction. And I had no idea what I was doing.
Again, we're all looking for help. Sometimes struggle on knowing the difference from the vetted mentor to the one that's better at like marketing.
What I don't like is when guys have too much flash and no cash. So they want to look rich instead of having the discipline to become wealthy.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to kick it off with our first podcast, the Wealth Gap Podcast. And today we have my friend, my mentor, Hector Padilla. He gave me a beautiful intro, but I'm going to butcher it. So Hector, do me a huge favor. And if you could share with some of
The
us
intro?
like the intro, because I know.
We'll keep it simple. So my story is how I went from newspaper boy to police officer to becoming a realtor, a broker owner, flipper, and finally purchasing over $100 million in real estate and now living my dream lifestyle. So that would be my intro.
Beautiful. Yeah, I wouldn't have hit it like you did. But yeah, so I have a huge treat here for our audience. You're someone that has quickly became the most influential people in my life.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
And I want to go back to way back how it all started. And I'm going to kick it off with this here. So if you could share with us who this guy is.
Wow.
We're taking it back.
So that's a picture of me working at a printing press, and I was 9 years old. And my mom would buy me Pro Wings. I don't know if you guys remember Pro Wings, but Pro Wings were very affordable shoes at a store called Payless. And I wanted to wear Nikes, high tops. So in order to do that, I had to buy them for myself. So I got a job at a printing press making minimum wage. But at the age of 9, which is 40 years ago, I had my bank account. And in that bank account, I had about $500 in it. So that may not sound like much, but when you think about a 9-year-old 40 years ago having $500 in a savings account.
You were, yeah.
Yeah, man.
You were in the top.
Just in the top 1%, top 1% for the 9-year-olds. And I felt like a little baller back then with my Nikes. So you guys are going to see in that picture, I got my Nikes.
That's awesome.
And that's what that was. So I learned at a very young age that I had to have work ethic. But I'll tell you something else, Andy. In that picture, what I also learned is I was making minimum wage. And no matter how hard I worked at that printing press, at that folding machine, I was always stuck, right? Every week, I was only going to make so much money. If I did some overtime, I made a little more money, but I was stuck. So when you guys are swapping dollars for hours, there's only so much money that you guys can make, and then you're going to get capped off, okay? Right. But as a 9-year-old, it was a start.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear those stories because, sometimes it's easy to see where you're at today, the lifestyle, the vacation home, the success. And we fail to know that we all come sometimes from very common, very similar beginnings.
You know what happens with that, Andy? I'll tell you a quick little story. I took a friend of mine who just graduated from college, and he's like, Hector, I want to be a real estate investor like you. Can we go out into the real estate trenches? And so I said, sure, no problem. So he comes out with me. We're rolling in the Rolls. I had a white Ghost Rolls Royce. And we drive out for the day, and we go do a photo shoot with the drone, and we look at one of my multi-million-dollar properties. And he was like, yeah, this is what I want. And I said, you know what? You have to understand that you're not going to do what I'm doing right now. You need to do what I did back then to get to where I'm at now. Yeah. So you're not going to get the Rolls Royce overnight, and you're not going to start owning multi-million-dollar properties and have the portfolio overnight. So do what I did to get here.
Well, that leads me to the next topic. So you posted something along these lines, and it was pretty much when you started off as a cop. So did you go to school for that? And then how did you end up realizing that you didn't want to continue to go up the corporate ladder, and how you ended up in real estate?
So my dream growing up, my mentor was my uncle, who was a Santa Monica police officer. And I wanted to be like him. My cousin was a police officer. My other cousin was a police officer. So I wanted to become a police officer. And that kept me on a straight line. So it kept me out of trouble when I was in high school. And it kept me out of trouble when I was in college. So yes, I studied criminal justice, but I also knew that there was a chance that I can get hurt on the job. So my major was business administration.
Mm.
In case something happened to me, I would know a little bit something about business. Then I got into the police force, and I quickly realized that my decision to become a police officer was based on Hollywood. So I would see T.J.
Mm.
Hooker and Adam 12 and SWAT and Hawaii 5 And once I became a police officer, I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. So luckily, I got out at a young age and I was able to make my pivot. And when I got out, everybody told me to get into real estate,
Mm.
especially because I was young. So I never wanted to climb that corporate ladder, to work for someone else for 20 or 30 years for a big corporate company, to be able to get that corner office in a Class A building. And you guys need to be careful with that. You need to be careful on where are you setting your ladder and whose ladder is it? And why are you climbing that ladder?
That's powerful. Well, you briefly touched on it, but with so many vehicles, you put this picture of my boy Jake Paul.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
why real estate? There's so many avenues.
So why real estate?
Yeah.
Excellent question. I had a mentor who already passed away, and we called him Bill the Billionaire. Okay. And one of the things that he taught me was he gave me the billionaire lessons. And he said, Hector, get into a business where it's a need, not a want.
Mm.
And real estate is a need. Everybody needs a place to live, a place to work, a place to play, and a place to die. And all of those four things are real estate. Then he also said, invest in cash producing assets. So what's a cash producing asset? Real estate. Then he said, Hector, buy assets that have existing revenue, and you don't necessarily need to use your money. Use strategic leverage. So what do we do with real estate? We buy existing revenue, which is an apartment building or commercial office suites or industrial, whatever it is. There's already existing revenue coming in from the rents. And then when we buy that asset, are we using all of our money to pay cash for it? For the most part, no, we're not. We're getting seller financing. We're doing a joint venture. We're doing a seller carryback. We're being strategic and we're being creative in putting that real estate transaction together. And that's why I got into real estate. And after real estate, Andy, a couple of years back, like maybe 2019, I looked at becoming a seed investor. Okay, a seed investor investing in new businesses. And every time I would interview a new entrepreneur or even the seasoned entrepreneur, and they would give me a new business that they were going to get into, it wasn't a need. It was a want. And it wasn't a time-proven vehicle to create wealth. And real estate is a time-proven vehicle to create wealth. And that's why I'm still in real estate.
So what do you say to, now that we're going to have some people watching, a lot of the people watching this, those that don't want to, you inspired them to, I don't know, aim for something different, something higher. They don't want to go up the corporate ladder no more. They want to get into real estate, but they're at the beginning phases. And I know you mentioned already that you must do, they must do as you did, not as
I do
like
now.
as you do today.
Right.
But for the early entrepreneur,
Yeah. So that
what
picture
advice
right
do you
there,
have? What do you have?
man, this guy's stalking me. He's pulling up these old pictures. I don't know. I'm going to have to call the police department. All right. So that picture right there, that's how I started my real estate journey.
Yeah.
So I had no money. So what I did was I literally emptied out my piggy bank. You're going to see on that picture, it was a 5-gallon piggy bank. I took all the money out. I also had some bills in it. And then what I did was I also cashed out my retirement plan, which wasn't very big. And I took all of that money, which was about $25,000, give or take, to buy my first real estate transaction. And I had no idea what I was doing when I bought my first deal. But I bought it. I had blind faith. I bought my first deal for about $25,000. The details are actually on that when I posted that on Instagram. And long story short, I sold it. And when I sold it for about 62 or 65,000. So I got back all of my money. And for you guys may think, well, 25,000 is not a lot of money, but when it's all of your money, it's a lot of money. And this is again like 40 years ago. Well, I was 25 at the time. almost 25 years ago. So I took all that money and I bought my first real estate transaction. I didn't know about leverage, so I bought it all cash. I bought it all cash. I sold it for about $62,000. I got back my down payment plus my profit. And at that point, that was going to help me out in paying my overhead for 1 year. And I was a buyer's agent and a listing agent at the time. So then I knew I can start focusing on getting into other flips. And my thinking was, if I can make money not knowing what I'm doing and I flipped this property, once I learn the business, then I'm going to make money. And something else that helped me make money in real estate is, remember this, guys, KMS, which means know my shit. My first deal, I didn't know my shit. I just got lucky and I made money. But after that, I started studying real estate. I cut my overhead. I started cutting my own hair. I started making my own lunch. I stopped going out. Fridays and Saturdays, it was about studying real estate. And then I learned the business, and then the rest is kind of history.
I think if we pause the video now, there'd be a lot of goodies already. But mentorship.
Man, this guy is stalking me. All right.
How important has mentorship been, and how do you find the mentors? Because I think a lot of us see maybe, I don't know, too many people on the social media platforms.
Well, on social media, yeah.
So tell us about mentorship and like how do you filter them?
All right, excellent question. Okay, so that picture there is with Dan Pena, the $50 billion man. And let me give you a little backdrop on that. So when my wife was pregnant, I decided I was going to be a full-time dad, and I was going to raise my little girl. So Bella was born, and I was a full-time dad. I was there for the delivery. I was up at 2, 3 in the morning changing diapers and giving her bottle, etc. And I semi-retired. So I went from going 100 miles an hour from hunting rhinos to all of a sudden, I'm a full-time dad. And I loved it for a little bit because most men, we're not our genetic code, the way we are, we're not meant to stay home, change diapers, and do goo goo gaga all day with the baby, okay? So I ended up getting a little anxiety, a little depression, and one night I'm out on my balcony and I'm watching YouTube, and I see the first video with Dan Pena, the $50 billion man, on the London Reel. And I saw this video and I'm like, man, this is what I need. He is a strong guy. If you guys look at Dan Pena, see his videos, he's no joke. So I get all excited and I go into the bedroom and I tell my wife, hey, I just met this guy. Well, I didn't meet him, but I just saw this guy on YouTube. His name is Dan Pena, and I want to go to his castle, and it's going to be in Scotland. And she was like, wow, well, I think you should do it. And I said, sweetie, not Scottsdale, Arizona, where I first met my other mentor, Bill the Billionaire, but Scotland, Europe. And she was like, no, you should go.
Wow.
And I said, really? And she's like, yeah, definitely go. And as a matter of fact, while you're there, you should tour Europe and take the month off, recalibrate, and then come back and see if you want to go at it again. So again, the power of having an extraordinary wife that's understanding and supportive. Guys, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're going to be an investor, you need a wife.
That was the next one.
That was the next question.
Okay.
You need a wife that's going to support you, and you need to have buy-in from the wife, because if you don't, it's going to be a hard, slippery slope as you're trying to climb up. So then I flew out to go see Dan Pena. I stood in his castle for 8 days, and then he mentored me for a year. And he's the one that helped me make my pivot to becoming the savvy and sophisticated investor, to building the real estate acquisition and investment firm with the built-in brokerage, a built-in management company, and a built-in maintenance company. And that setup has been the game changer, right? I don't know if you know, Andy, or not, but I actually got my spot on Dan Pena's Wall of Fame for buying over $100 million in real estate, and then he got me an interview with the LA Times. So the power, I always call it the exponential power of one. The exponential power of one vetted mentor. The exponential power of one deal. Like my first deal, I didn't know what I was doing, but I made good money, right? So the exponential power of that one deal. The exponential power of one introduction. The exponential power of one new right hire. Meaning if you hire a beast, if you hire a stallion, that helps you take your business to the next level. So going back, you were asking me, how do you vet them? You got to follow them, see what they're doing. and you got to see if they're the real deal. Like there's guys out there, and we know them
Yeah.
on Instagram and social media, and they're doing boot camps, right, on how to invest in real estate, but yet they own no real estate. They don't have a real estate portfolio. They're talking about that you should invest in your home, that you should own your home, and yet they're renting their home. They talk about how to build a business, and yet they owe money to the IRS, right? You got to be careful on who you're following and who you're listening to. That's one of the reasons, Andy, why I do the small little day in the trenches.
Yeah.
Because we tour 30 to 50
Yeah.
million dollars of my power plays. So you can see that I'm the real deal.
Yeah.
If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the lifestyle that I live.
So what are some of? I know you throw the word like young cats.
Yes.
What's the advice there for the young cats in the business?
Yep.
Because again, we're all looking for help,
Absolutely.
and we sometimes struggle on identifying or knowing the difference from the vetted mentor to the one that's better at like marketing. I know you ran this by Patty as well, but you're like this young cat here. He seems like a good dude. I'm gonna give him a little bit of time and help him out.
Well,
But
are you talking about with you?
yeah,
Oh, well, here's the true story.
Yeah.
When I first heard of Andy, honestly, I didn't like you.
yeah,
Okay, because he had the Lamborghini and he was a little flashy, and he was newer in the business. You guys got to be careful, and I understand why you were doing it,
Yeah.
right? And it's okay.
well, I'll tell you my story right now,
Okay,
my
so-
version.
all
But
right.
go ahead.
So what I don't like is when guys have too much flash and no cash. Too much flash and no cash, and they want to look rich, but they're not. Okay, they just want to look rich. So what are they doing? They're swiping their credit card to get the Louis Vuitton bag, and they're swiping their credit card to get the fancy watch, etc. So they want to look rich instead of having the discipline to become wealthy, right? So next thing you know, I run into Andy at another event in Florida, and we didn't talk. I just ran into him, but he was asking good questions. So then I started to realize this guy's intelligent, and I saw him writing down notes, and he was like focused at that event. Then I spoke at another event, and again, the exponential power of an introduction. So I spoke at another event for Willie Escobar, right? He's a good guy. He's a vetted mentor.
Right.
And Willie then introduced me to Andy, and he asked me to speak for Andy, and I said, you know what? I won't speak for Andy because I don't know him. I can't vouch for him. So I told Andy, Andy, come up. Let's go on the world-famous walk in the world-famous Hollywood Hills. And he came up, and we went for the mentorship walk. And then I was able to see that he's a good guy. He's trying, he's working hard to build wealth and to build a business. And the other thing with him is that he wants to teach the younger cats not just how to close loans, but how to become wealthy. So there's a big difference. And what I tell people is don't be a pussy cat. That's a young guy who thinks he knows it all, but doesn't know his head from his ass. And when you try and teach them something, they come out and they say, I already know that. I already know that. Well, if you already know that, why are you still broke? After hustling, right? The big word is grinding and hustling. You've been grinding and hustling for 5 or 10 years and you're still broke. Why is that? So those guys, I call them pussy cats. A young cat is a young man that wants to learn, wants to create wealth, and is willing to learn from vetted mentors, is willing to put in the work and earn it.
Yeah.
And the lions are someone like myself, a vetted mentor. Well, we've been through it. We're seasoned. We already created our wealth. That's a lion.
Yeah, well, looking back, I can see how I made a lot of mistakes. but I'll tell you where my heart was when like I bought the Lambo. It was my first time experiencing having a little bit like a little surplus, even though it was earned income.
Yep.
I didn't know any better on like having the cash flow be what pays for the toys.
Right.
But if I had $30,000 months, $40,000 months, and then all my life I have this thing in my,
Yeah.
in my vision board of like having
Lambo.
the Lambo,
Yeah.
and I got a little bit of exposure to some of these toys, and I went and asked how much is the payment, what would the down payment be. I got the details.
Yeah.
I sat in it.
You did your due diligence.
I did my due diligence. And I'm like, I can afford this.
Yeah.
I can afford the payment. I could come up with the down payment.
Right.
So then I did it with like the intention of checking off one of, my dreams and my childhood
Absolutely.
dreams.
Yep.
But then later you realize if you want to grow a business, and it's probably not in the right sequence. Like I should go after cash producing assets first, and then, like I said, have that be what pays the toys, and just delayed gratification. So
Absolutely. So, guys, with what Andy just said, there's nothing wrong with getting the Lamborghini or the Ferrari or the Rolls Royce or the G Wagon. Get your dream car, but be smart about it. Invest, delayed gratification, invest in cash producing assets, and then have that cash producing assets pay for the monthly payment. Have a real estate holding company, lease that luxury vehicle to your holding company, and have an cash producing asset, real estate, make the monthly payment. Or if you have a strong business, the same thing, lease it to the business and have the business make the payment. But you don't want to feel like you have a noose over your neck on, oh my God, how am I going to make this $5,000 or $7,000 monthly payment? So make sure that you're in a position when you can afford it. So again, you should definitely buy what you want,
yeah,
but be intelligent. Think like a savvy investor. Think like a savvy entrepreneur.
yeah. So what another takeaway there, and I hope our people are taking note on these things, was that when I had the car and I was out there being flashy, I realized that the vetted mentors, the people that I actually wanted to add to
Your circle of
my
influence.
circle of influence, didn't
Yep.
really care for those things,
Yep.
nor did they approve of it, nor like that, which is interesting here with like what you're sharing on what your observation was from like seeing me the first few times and
Yeah.
your experience. So I think that was a good takeaway.
Yeah, you got to be careful. When I have the G Wagon now,
Yeah.
and I have a Porsche GTS now. But when I had the Rolls, and I was going to go on a business meeting, I didn't always take the Rolls because it was too flashy. And sometimes I would just Uber it, or I would take a different car. So you got to make sure that you know who you're presenting to, because a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a Rolls Royce can be a put off. They may think, man, this guy's making way too much money. He's going to take advantage of me, right? So you do have to be careful with that.
Okay, I got another person I want you to talk about.
Ah,
Finding
so,
the so here I see working with family,
yes.
finding your right hand man,
Yep.
someone that you can trust. I
Yep.
know I'm in business with my sister, and I've heard stories that it's sometimes challenging to be working and bringing family on. But
Yep.
for me, it's been the biggest blessing. So I know that you have Adrian in your
Yeah.
corner as well.
Yeah. So we call him the Wolf. We call him the Wolf, and his name is Adrian Torres, and he's my cousin, and he's been working with me for, gosh, 20 years now. 20 years since like almost the beginning. And it's powerful to have a trusted right hand. I know if I tell Adrian anything, he's like, let's go. Whatever has to get done, he's there for me, and I can trust him. I know he's not going to stab me in the back. I just did a video on this, Andy, and I called it Missionaries versus Mercenaries. And you guys got to be careful when you have a mercenary working with you, because they will stab you in the back. They're in it to make quick cash, and they have no ethics. Versus when you have a visionary, they're willing to work hard because they want to follow your vision, and they're good hearted people, and they have work ethic, they have integrity. So with me, yeah, we're a family office. My wife works with me. My brother-in-law works with me. My cousin works with me. So we are truly a
Nice.
family office. And people ask me how I do it. I've had other family members that worked with me, and I always tell them, look, if I fire you and you're surprised, I did a bad job. But if I fire you and you know it's coming, then you know it's coming and you know it's your fault. So I always give people 3 strikes. Strike 1, strike 2. When strike number 3 is coming, that means you're going to be terminated.
Yeah.
And I had to terminate 2 cousins because they weren't performing, but they knew it was coming. And they knew that what I was telling them was the truth. So they understood it, and we still have a good relationship to this day. So what I say when you're working with family is have crystal clear communication, and they must understand expectations.
Hmm.
And not only because they're a family member are you going to put them on a high salary. Every position pays a different amount. Okay, so they're not going to make X amount of money because they hold a certain position.
Friends, I see some friends that
Yes.
you have in your life, and I look back at people I grew up with, people I sat next to in classrooms, and sometimes it's not the same people that we're maintaining that close relationship with in the later years. So what can you share about like the friends that you grew up with and how that starts to change as life evolves and you're growing your business and
I think
maturing?
you gotta ask yourself: are you surrounding yourself with chimps, chumps, or champs? And if you want to become a champ, you need to surround yourself with champs. Growing up, when I first got into the business, I had friends that were partying every Friday and Saturday, that were drinking a lot on Friday, Saturday, and I knew I couldn't do that. So I still stayed in contact with them. But in all honesty, Andy, I outgrew all of them. So I can still be cordial with them, but we're not going out, we're not traveling together, and you end up making new friends. And it's like the old saying goes, you're going to become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So look at the 5 people that are in your inner circle and look at how much is each person making as far as income. What kind of lifestyle are they living? What kind of car are they driving? What area are they living in? And do you need to level up that circle of influence?
Yeah. What's interesting to me is the people that I've been getting a lot closer to, not only are they higher, they're earning more, but I'm starting to see a correlation there with them being spiritually aligned, which is something that I've been very, very intentional on these last few years. And the talks that I've heard them um, just bounce around is like how much they contribute to their churches. And
Yeah,
it just gets me to think of like, wow, the people that I'm around now are talking about how much they're giving back versus sometimes even what they're earning.
absolutely.
So it's good.
Contribution is
Yeah.
huge. There's one of the key words is fulfillment. For me right now, buying another real estate asset does nothing for me. And I got this lesson when they asked a shaman. They said, "What is poison?" And the shaman replied, "Having more of anything than what you need can be poisonous." So for right now, I already have a large real estate portfolio. I already have my dream home. I have the cars. I'm happily married. So for me right now, investing in more real estate, what's it going to take? It's going to take more of my time. And right now, I truly want to enjoy my time freedom. My daughter is now 9 years old. I'm going to blink and she's going to be 13. So I want to invest a lot of time with her. I'm on my first marriage and hopefully my last marriage. So I want to invest time with my wife. Andy, my parents are now going to be 78, right? So for my parents, they're here for breakfast, but they may not be here for dinner.
Mm.
I want to invest time with my parents. I will never get this time back.
Hmm.
I can always go out there and hunt for more deals. So you have to be wise and understand when do you have enough and things are going to change for you. When you're in your 20s and you're in your 30s, it is go time. I always tell the young cats, Andy, that they need to work half days.
Hmm.
And when I tell them half days, they're like, "Oh, so I only need to work 4 hours
4 hours.
a day, right? What is that, that book, The 4 Hour Work Week?"
Yeah.
And I say, no. What you need to do is you need to work the first 12 hours of the day or the second 12 hours of the day. Those are half days, especially when you're building the business. Once you get into your 40s and into your 50s, you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. I know you talked about one of the billionaire lessons being knowing when to stop, when you hit the magic number, having crystal clear clarity on your dream lifestyle, and just knowing when to pump your brakes. I was excited for this one.
So let me
Oh, go
touch
ahead. Go
base
ahead.
on
Go ahead.
that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So you guys need to have what I call 3CP. And 3CP means that you must have crystal clear clarity on what you want your business to look like. And when you have crystal clear clarity, then you have the power. The same thing with your lifestyle. You must have crystal clear clarity to have the power. What do you want your lifestyle to look like? And if you guys don't know, then you're not going to have the power.
Yeah, les di un coscorrón. We had a meeting with a bunch of agents
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 days ago, and I think it's powerful. The doing the exercise of identifying the monthly payment on your dream home, because I like
Absolutely.
to say, I want a $2-3 million home, and then I'm okay moving to Texas, and I want a big yard, and a $2-3 million home out there has a nice little basketball court
Oh,
and
you
a
got
big pool.
acreage. Yeah, for 3
Yeah,
million.
so it's funny because my sister-in-law, she rents my house in Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small 2,400 square foot home, and the property that they moved from to get into mine was, I don't know, had the 3,600 square feet, a two-story home. And
Mm.
what my sister-in-law said was, "Cuñado, it's crazy. I love your new home here, or the new home, because it's so much smaller, and the kids' rooms is like literally across from
Yes.
mine."
Yes.
So yes, I thought the big house, the two-story home, the like new build would be great for us. But now that I'm here, I get to I get to bump into my kids a lot more often. It just feels a lot more homey, which reminds me of
100%.
like, the advice you've given us, which is, you say you want that $2-3 million home, you ought to go and walk it, because the last thing you want is to be sacrificing all this time, busting your butt,
Yeah.
hustling. A lot of times, even on the weekends, missing family functions, and like God knows how much we sacrifice to get our business to where we want to buy that home, to only get there 5-10 years later and realize, like, whoa, this is kind of not what I wanted. Like, babe, are you gonna be cool cleaning all this?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
so I think that's powerful.
Absolutely. And that's part of having crystal clear clarity. And the one word is lifestyle.
Mhm.
Okay. So, what does lifestyle mean? Lifestyle means, what kind of home do you want to own? Do you want a vacation home? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of vacations do you want to take? And then doing the reverse math on how much is that going to cost you per month. So, whether it's 10,000, 50,000, or 100,000 a month to live your dream lifestyle, what I tell my mentees is now create that with passive income by investing in cash producing assets, by owning apartment buildings and commercial office space, right? So now you have that passive income coming in, and eventually you no longer have to work because you have that passive income coming in. And getting back to Andy's point on the house, everybody's, well, not everybody, but a lot of people based on social media say, oh, I want this mansion and I want a garage with 10 exotic cars. And what I tell them is, have you even walked a mansion? Go walk a mansion. I live in a cozy home right here in the world famous Hollywood Hills, as I say, but my neighbor's house is 27,000 square feet, 3 floors with an elevator. Do you know how long it takes to walk that house? 45 minutes.
Across the street,
Yeah.
I walked there
Yeah.
one
So
time.
Andy's walked it. Beautiful house. But it's 27,000 square feet. And we were over there one night, and Bella was with me, my little 9-year-old. And I said, Bella, what do you think? Should we buy this house? Now, it's a $72 million house, okay? I'm not going to buy a $72 million
Hmm.
house. But I just asked her, Bella, what do you think? Should we buy the house? And she's like, no, Daddy. She's like, it's way too big. Imagine the maintenance and the repairs. And she's like, what if you're in your car and you forget your wallet? Now you got to go all the way up to the 3rd floor to get it. But here's my point. If you guys do want the mansion, go walk it, see what it feels like. Understand the maintenance to take care of it, understand the cost of repairs, understand the property taxes, and see if it's something you really want. What I tell the mentees is, do you really want to have a mansion with 10 empty bedrooms to impress people that don't give a
Dang.
shit about you?
Wow,
They just want to be there to party
that's
and drink your wine and have your food,
that's
right?
that's crazy.
So why do you want the mansion? Is it to impress people that don't give a shit about you, or is it something you really want? But excellent point. And you guys have even, Mike Tyson and 50 Cent said the same thing. Like, they bought mansions and they realized, like, this is way too big. Like, this does not feel like a cozy home.
Yeah.
So understand what you want.
So the exercise there, just so that, because I think it's powerful, is identifying the house that you want and what the
Yes.
mortgage payment would be. If you want a certain type of vehicle, well, what would the payment be on that? If you want to retire your homes, like, how much money would that be? If you want to take certain types of vacations, private school, like whatever you want your dream life to be, identifying what that magic number is, and then now we know approximately how much we need to generate and how much we need to invest in these multi cash producing properties. Now, for like I don't know, safe haven there for an example, like what would $1 million property, what would be safe to say $1 million property would produce, so that we know like approximately how many $1 million properties we'd have to go after that can generate, the number that we're solving for.
Okay, so that question is not easy to answer because it depends. So let me,
Okay,
I'll tell you what I would say.
okay.
So it depends on where that property is at. What is the ARV? What is the after repositioning value? And what is the as is value? But here's what I would tell you when people ask me, how can I live my dream lifestyle? I try to keep it simple. So to own your dream home, you should have about 2 to 3 cash producing assets paying for your home. To drive your dream car, you should have 1, maybe 2 properties paying for your dream car. On the vacation home, I would recommend you buy it and Airbnb it. And then another thing with the vacation home, it sounds great to say, oh, I own a vacation home in Europe. But in reality, how much are you going to use it? It takes 1 full day just to get there. The second day you have jet lag. It takes you another day to get back, another 1 or 2 days of jet lag. So how often are you truly going to visit that vacation home? And that's what I love about my vacation home. It's in Cabo. It's a 2-hour flight and I'm there, right? It's almost like being in LA traffic. 2 hours, I'm in Mexico and I'm in Cabo. For your commercial office space, do something like I did. I bought a commercial building. I created office suites, right? Now I rent out all those suites and then I take up my own space. But now my tenants are paying all of the overhead and they're paying all the CAMs. And CAMs is common area maintenance. So now I have equity in the building. I bought that building for about 2.6. It's now valued at over 5 million. I already refinanced it twice. I already pulled all my money out and it still cash flows and I still have equity. So that's kind of the way I would say it.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks to you, I'm actually in contract with our first commercial building, and it's for us to work out of there as well.
Excellent.
So, since
Good.
last time that we
And see, guys, when you are a mentor, one of the big highs that we get is to see the mentees performing and creating results. One of the things that irritates us is when we have a mentee that's a pain in the ass, right? He's an asshole. I didn't say asshole.
Yeah.
I said asshole. And that's when the mentee asks you for advice, you give it to them, and they don't listen to you.
Yeah.
Then they come back, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Andy,
Yeah.
and they ask you the same thing. That's an asshole. Don't be an asshole, and listen to your mentee and take action. Focus on wealth creating action.
Take me here. Your number one.
Oh, wow.
Your number one mentee.
My number one mentee. Yeah. And that's my daughter right there, Bella. She's 9 years old. Going back to my other mentor, and he speaks about this openly, so it's not like I'm giving up some confidential information.
Yeah.
But Dan Pena, the $50 billion man, he is a great mentor for business. But his kids would have to call him, no, correction, his kids would have to call his assistant to make an appointment to speak with him.
Crazy.
So he didn't have a close relationship with his kids. And now what he says is his kids are not high performance people. They don't own big businesses. They're not making a lot of money. And what he says is that he's going to leave them $1 million each, right? So for me, it makes no sense to succeed in the office and then to come home and fail as a father. So my number one mentee right now is my daughter. I invest a lot of time with her because I want her to live her dream lifestyle and I want her to be humble. So that picture that Andy just showed is Bella earning, what belt was that? Let me see, what color was that? That was her earning her, I think that's her purple belt. Yeah, her purple belt in Krav Maga, right? And blue belt. Okay, so that was when she earned her blue belt in Krav Maga. And that's something I would do is I drive her to Krav Maga and I stay there with her and I'm watching her. I'm not on my phone, watching Instagram. I'm focused and watching my little girl. And when she does something good, guess what she does, guys? She looks back to see if daddy's watching.
No, that's powerful.
And daddy is watching, okay? So make sure that fathers, when you guys are going to be fathers, that you guys are dedicated fathers. Don't go to the soccer game and be on your laptop checking email and on the phone calling,
Right.
prospects. You guys have to learn how to be in control of your business, and don't let your prospects, don't let your clients run you or run your business. It's your business. Learn how to run your business. Learn how to control your time. You will never get this time back with your children.
That's powerful. In a recent service at church, they talked about how powerful it is for the little ones to hear it from the father figure, to get the validation from them when they're doing something good. So I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And start teaching them the lingo, start teaching them the lingo. When I drive my daughter to Krav Maga, it's about an hour drive, okay? And then I'm there with her for the class, it's about another hour, then it's another hour drive back home. And when we're in the car, she's not always just watching YouTube. I'm there trying to teach her lessons, asking her questions, trying to better understand her so that I can better help her and have her learn the lingo. Like she knows, Bella, if you do, you can't always do what's fun and easy. Sometimes you must do what is, she just said, what's hard
Wow.
and necessary, right? So you got to teach her that little stuff. One day we're driving here in my area, and then we leave my area and we go into a different neighborhood. And she's like, Daddy, she's like, you see that car right there? She's like, they just want to look rich, but they're not. And I started laughing, and I'm like, Bella, why do you say that? And she goes, because they have an expensive car in the driveway, but look at the house. The
Wow.
house is falling apart. So they just want to look rich while they're driving the car.
That's
So
powerful.
now Bella understands the difference between uh, fake flash, looking rich, versus being wealthy. And I take her into the real estate trenches with me. She doesn't always like it. As a matter of fact, she doesn't like it, right? She's shaking her head, no. But she learns. She learns the business. She sees me communicating with my tenants, with my team, and she sees how I handle myself. And another thing that I teach her is to always respect everybody. We don't know what they're going through. Some of these tenants that didn't pay the rent, they didn't pay it because they lost their job. They got sick. We don't know what they're going through, so we need to be patient and be understanding and respect everybody.
Yeah, you've been to our conferences, and in our last conference, I shared a little bit about the wealthiest men in American history and how, like the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers,
The Padillas.
the Padillas. Yeah, but on average, by
Yeah.
the third generation, they lost all their wealth, and that was mainly because of the lack of development, the
The lack of
discipleship.
mentorship.
Yeah, the lack of mentorship and the leaders preparing the next generation. Like in this case, Bella getting that one-on-one time, and you have been a father figure, a leader that is investing and pouring onto her, is like the differentiator there.
Absolutely. So you must educate and train your kids so that they have capacity and they have work ethic. I journal to Bella every day, and she's going to get my journals when my time
Mm.
comes. But when she walks into my home office, she knows what I'm doing. She'll say, "Oh, Daddy, you're journaling to me so that I learn from you." And some of the things that I say, one of the things I tell her is like, Daddy will be more proud of you if you gift 100 pairs of shoes versus owning 100 pairs of shoes. You don't need 100 pairs of shoes. You have been a blessed child. Go out and be a blessing. You don't need a closet full of purses and full of clothes, right? Keep life simple.
I see that you're with her here. You guys did a little bit of traveling, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah.
How
Yeah.
does traveling open up your mind? Do you believe it does? And I'd love to know if Bella has learned
What she has learned.
some of
Yeah.
these some lessons there from.
So here's something else, guys.
That's you on the shoulders, no?
Yep. Yeah. That was in Japan.
That's awesome.
That's when you met the samurai, right? And you had sushi. Here's what I'll say with that. There's a big difference between having time freedom, true time freedom, and having a flexible schedule. And the challenge is that a lot of loan officers, realtors, brokers, entrepreneurs, they have a flexible schedule. So they can run over to go drop off their kids at school, but while they're driving over, they're on the phone, they're texting, they're emailing. Then they got to rush back to work. Then they're going to rush over to pick up the kids again, and then they got to rush back again. And again, they're on the phone, texting and emailing. They're not spending quality time with their kids. So that's a flexible schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Time freedom is when you can go on a what I call a mini sabbatical, and you can go to Europe and you can go to Asia for 30 to 45 days and you don't have to work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not on your laptop replying to emails and phone calls. You're enjoying the journey. And your kids and your family, they get to experience a different lifestyle. They get to see different cultures, especially with Latinos. Where do Latinos go on vacation?
Tijuana.
They go to vacation? Yeah. Tijuana
Okay.
or, no, but it's true, right? So Tijuana or different parts of Mexico.
Cancun.
Or the big vacation. Yeah, Cancun is Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So they go to Mexico. And then the big vacation is they go to Hawaii for 7 days.
Yeah.
But when you go to Hawaii, again, it takes 1 day to get there. Then you're there for 5 days, and then it takes another day to get back. And then you come back to a pile of work. So create a business that's going to allow for you to have true time freedom, where you're not always texting and emailing and phone calls. Have true time freedom and travel the world with your kids. Don't have that regret. And the same thing with your parents. Ask your parents, where do you want to see? Where do you want to go? My father wanted to go to the Vatican. Is that the next question? Yeah. All right, let's see. What's the question?
It's powerful. It's just talk about the bucket list, how it's important to know you had us do an exercise where you asked us to write down 10 material things we would like to buy ourselves in the next 5 years. Write down 10 things, 10 experiences, life experiences that you would like to experience in the next 5 years. So that we know we have crystal clear clarity on why we're busting our butt.
That's right.
But in none of the sessions that we've had have we had people where they're clear on the next 10 things they want to buy themselves, nor have 10 experiences. So I think that was powerful. And in addition to that, you said, well, wouldn't it be nice to be able to put yourself in a position where you could also help your loved ones, in this case, our parents, for a lot of us, like to check off some of the things on their bucket list, and how that was one of your biggest accomplishments.
Absolutely.
To be able to do that for your family.
Yeah. So everybody's always asking me what's been my number one accomplishment, and they expect me to talk about, buying over $100 million in real estate or the Rolls Royce or, something having to do with just money. And it wasn't. My biggest accomplishment has been able to position myself to then talk to my parents and ask them what's on your bucket list. And if you guys haven't seen the movie Bucket List, watch it tonight. Watch it tonight and then ask your parents what's on your bucket list. So for my dad, my father wanted to see a World Cup. So I took him to Brazil to see a World Cup. My father was going to be a Catholic priest. So he wanted to go to the Vatican. I took him to the Vatican. He wanted to see the churches in Rome. So I took him to Rome. He wanted to go to Venezia. I took him to Venezia. I bought him a brand new car. I made all of his dreams come true. The same thing with my mother. My mother wanted to go to Cuba. We went to Cuba. She wanted to go to Paris. She wanted to go to London, to Rome. I made all that happen for her, and I also got her a new car. So that has been my biggest accomplishment, is making my family's bucket list come true. The same thing with your wife.
Yeah.
I asked my wife, what's on your bucket list? Now, my parents had a few things. My wife's list, fortunately, it was about this big. So my wife's bucket list was not like this. I mean, I'm still working on that one.
Yeah.
But the same thing, we made all of her dreams come true. So ladies and men, talk to your loved ones and find out what's on their bucket list. If your parents are still alive, make their dreams come true and experience it with them. Don't just give them $10,000 and say, go to Hawaii. I went with my dad to the Vatican. I went with my father to Brazil to see the World Cup. Experience that with your family. You will never get that time back. You can always get the Lamborghini or sell the Lamborghini and get another car. But your time with your family members is limited, and you just never know. Like I say, life is short and unpredictable. Eat the dessert first.
That's beautiful. I've been sharing with our team the following message, and multiple times in different settings, but it's the fact that the life expectancy for Latino male, Latino females is 76 years of age.
Yeah.
And to move with intention, with urgency, and knowing when to stop. Um, but I'd love some tactical advice for our audience. Like, for example, when you tell us that for us newer or entrepreneurs that are barely kicking off their entrepreneurial journey or their business, to be working 4 half days. Then on Friday you say to go 8 to 10. Sunday,
Saturday 4 hours.
Saturday 4 hours. Sunday,
No.
it's time proven wisdom
Yep.
that we take a day off.
6 days of labor, 1 day of rest.
But here's where I'm getting. So then that's tactical. But for the spouses,
yes.
I'm about to get married,
Yes.
and you've given me advice in the past on how to keep a healthy relationship, keep the fire lit
Yes.
in a marriage. Can you share with the audience some of the things you've told me in the past on how to keep your spouse happy, keep the fire ignited?
So number one is, I think you need to be the right person to attract the right person. Be a person of caliber. Like Andy, you meet Andy, you can just feel his good energy. You can feel that he's a good guy, and therefore he attracted a beautiful bride that's also good-hearted and intelligent. So like attracts like. So become that attractive person. Okay? Now, once you get married, and actually before you get married, you guys both, that exercise that we talked about,
Yeah.
you guys both have to sit down and write down what are 10 material things that you really, really, really want. What are 5 to 10 experiences that you want to have? And one of them may be to travel the world, right? What are 5 things that you want to become? Do you want to become a husband? Do you want to become a father? Do you want to become a soccer coach? Do you want to become a chef? What do you want to become over the next 5 years, and then become it? In regards to a couple of things, so with my wife working with me, my wife is our CFO, okay? So I know she has capacity to do that, and she runs with that. Every now and then she'll consult with me or with our attorney or with another tax advisor, but that's what she does. I run the acquisitions, the raising of capital, the dispositions. So she lets me do what I want to do, what I'm good at. And sometimes I bounce things off of her and we talk things out. So support each other, but have the faith that they can get their job done, right? Something else is, I always tell the young cats, I say, you know what, try to make enough money so that you can have a house manager. That's what we had.
Yeah.
And a house manager is someone that's going to do the cooking, the cleaning, the grocery shopping, dropping off and picking up the dry cleaning. Because my wife and I, we had a sexy relationship before getting married, right? And I didn't want to lose that. And what happens with a lot of couples is you have that sexy relationship, you're traveling, you're going to Vegas, and you're having a great time. You get married, and then the kids come. And now your sexy girlfriend, fiance, now your wife, now she's tired.
Yeah.
Because she's up all night taking care of the baby.
Cook, clean, wash the
Cook,
dishes.
clean, all that. And she comes home and she doesn't have the energy to be able to take care of the husband, right? So right off the bat, when we had Bella, we had a house manager that took care of all of that so that my wife had the energy to be able to go on dates. And never stop dating your wife. Do a minimum of 1 date night. If you can, do 2 date nights where you leave the kid at home. Don't bring the baby with you. The baby is not going to enjoy Mastro's.
Yeah.
The baby is not going to enjoy a delicious steak dinner. And if anything, you're not going to enjoy it because the baby's going to be crying. You got to change the diaper, and you can't have focus in continuously courting your wife. So continuously having date nights is critical if you want to keep that fire going.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that when you travel, sometimes you bring the nanny or grandparents to help with taking care of the baby so you guys can go out and have your good
Absolutely.
time.
When we first had Bella, she was 3 months old, okay? And we had a vacation home in Palm Desert. And when we used to go out there, we would go out there and we would party. And we'd go out to dinner and we'd go out to a lounge and enjoy cocktails. When we took Bella to that first vacation, it was no vacation. We couldn't do Bella, close your ears. We couldn't do much because we had our little baby with us. So right then and there is I put out a massive text message looking for a house manager that could travel with us. So yes, whenever we travel, Europe, Asia, South America, we always take our nanny with us and one or two of the grandparents. So that way we can invest time with Bella in the daytime, but at nighttime my wife and I can still go out and enjoy that delicious steak dinner. We can go out and enjoy a couple of glasses of wine and not worry about our little girl.
Yeah. So Judy, when I told her that we were gonna have someone helping with washing, with the dishes, with the cleaning the
Everything.
house, she
Absolutely.
was like, well, like, what am I gonna do?" And so
Yeah.
it's not common. I don't think it's common for our people to our Latino culture to think that like that's the type of life that we live. But I think it's powerful that you said you have to give them their time as well, so that they can do whatever the ladies got to do to go get their workouts in, and then
Absolutely.
come home and still have the energy to get ready and want to look good for their partner. So I think that was powerful.
Absolutely. Guys, alone time is priceless, not just for you as a man, but also for your wife. She needs to have alone time to go to the gym. Like my wife, she goes to play tennis with her girlfriends. They go and they have, champagne and they have their lunches and they have their girl time. And again, she has her own alone time. And that is critical for them to have. The same thing with you. I call it HP alone time. I want to have alone time to enjoy a cigar, have a cocktail, journal, read a book, and then sometimes I want to go out with some of the guys,
Yeah,
right? But yeah, you guys have to have your alone time and your own time.
beautiful. All right, last thing I want to ask you before
Yes,
we wrap up. But thank you so much
you're welcome.
for all this. But we got a movie with Eddie Murphy coming out here pretty soon, so we want to
That's
know when
right.
the
Yeah,
release
yeah,
is
yeah.
gonna be. Oh man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I would love to know how you landed that. I know you talk about the relationship of one and how your circle sometimes gets you into
You,
situations like these.
absolutely. So, guys, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. People say, oh, I know this person and I know that person, but that person doesn't know you. Whose cell number do you have, right? Do you really know that person? Do you go to their home and have dinner with them? Do you go out for cocktails with them? So the power of proximity. So I'm having, and it's no, I can mention his name now because I'm now in the movie, but with Eddie Murphy, I'm sitting in Cabo and we're having dinner with Tim Story, a movie producer and director. And I tell him that my mom wants to see me in a movie. And I said, and with older parents, we don't know how much time they have. I go, so you got to speed it up and get me into a movie. So the first time I got called out to be in a movie was in Atlanta, and that's when I met you. We were in Florida,
Yeah.
so I couldn't make that movie. Then he calls me recently, and he's like, Hector, I can get you in an Eddie Murphy movie. Come to Atlanta. And I'm like, I'm there. So I flew into Atlanta, and I got to do a speaking role, and I met Eddie Murphy. So again, the power of proximity, your network will determine your net worth and get into the right circles. There's so many people that go to acting school and they work hard going through all these auditions and they never get in a movie. And just because I knew the right person and I was a pain in the ask, not a pain in the ass, a pain in the ask, I got myself into that movie. And that's going to air in February or March of 2025. And I
Well,
think it's called The Pickup with Eddie Murphy.
well,
It's a $100 million budget movie.
we can't wait to see it.
Yeah. But don't blink, because if you blink, you're gonna miss my role. Right? It was like a quick little role.
Where do people follow you? Plug
To follow.
yourself in there
All
so
right.
people can.
The best way to follow me is gonna be on Instagram, the real Hector Padilla. That's the best way. I'm on TikTok, but the best way is on Instagram. You can also send me an email, and the email is gonna be info at P as in private, C as in capital, investments.com. Info at hpcinvestments.com. And remember, guys, vetted guys will reply to a DM when you ask a good question. So ask a good question and start to connect with that person. I also call it networking stealth mode, right? You're not always just asking for business, but what can you do to bring value to someone? How can you create a fun experience for someone, get to know them, and then build on that relationship? And it does take time.
Awesome. There you have it. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Hector.
Thank you, Andy.
Pleasure
It's been a
having you.
pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.